up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies.
Hey! We're lean and mean today, baby.
We are. Just the two of us for this particular show. Our friend, our buddy, Channing McClung is off working the new schedule of his for Halloween Horror Nights. They just had their employee night, so if you guys are excited to go see, if you live in the area and you want to go see Halloween Horror Nights, you might run into Channing McClung working the park as well as the Halloween Horror Nights, possibly. But we are here. I am John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer, animated TV shows and movies, and sometimes video games.
Yeah, that's what sometimes look out for that very soon, I'm sure. And we are here to talk about a bunch of stuff going on in the world of geekdom. We will have another show later on this week covering the new episode of Peacemaker. But today we are talking about some new trailers that dropped this week. We're talking about the big news that James Gunn has just announced the title and the release date of his new Superman movie. We're definitely going to have a lot to talk about that, some Gambit stuff. And we're going to wrap it up by giving our spoiler review for episode 5 of Alien Earth in Space. No one. And so we're going to talk about all of that here on the Geek Buddy. So, Michael, let's get it going. Let's not waste any time here.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about it. This was a massive announcement that happened just as we were about to start recording here that James Gunn has released the new name of his film that he claims is not necessarily a direct sequel, but it is called Superman Man of Tomorrow. Maybe that's why Woman of Tomorrow was removed from Supergirl. We'll see. This is going to hit theaters on July 9th, 2027. And in the announcement, as you see there, it is Lex Luthor in his war suit, which seems like it's going to continue Luthor's anger towards Superman. But 3 different images were released to coincide with this big announcement here. And these are different artists. Jim Lee, you see there, smack dab in the middle. And it's fascinating to see how he was able to get this announcement rolled out in the way that he did and get people on board with this. And excitement seems to be the feeling around social media. But what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on the title? What are your thoughts on the images from these different comic book creators, original images, by the way, and where we're going with this?
Well, my first thought is, how is this not a sequel?
Yes.
I mean, and this is the constant, like, love him or hate him.
Yeah.
That James Gunn talks out of his ass on social media so much. And I'm working on something. It's not exactly a direct sequel. It's sort of like he's in it, but like it's not. If your name is in the title, it's your movie.
Yeah, it's your movie. Yes.
Like, this is not a World's Finest. This is not Justice Gang International. This is not, I'm telling this other story, Mr. Terrific, but Superman's in it. Like, I'll be really, now look, I'm saying this, and I know I'm not the only one saying it, and I am just waiting for the inevitable James Gunn tweet where he clarifies what he means and says, this is why it's not a direct sequel, because it's from Lex Luthor's point of view, or like there's going to be a way that he tries to slice it. But when you had Superman come out in July of 25, and Supergirl comes out in July of 26, and Man of Tomorrow comes out in July of 27, this feels like a Superman sequel to me. Now, that being said, aside from wanting to make fun, okay, go ahead. What do you think on that front?
Before you go forward, Mike, I just want to clarify for people who maybe are like, what is he talking about? This is the tweet. I'm a little confused. It's on Threads. Somebody asked him, I'm a little confused right now. Is this the same movie you talked about in the past? The one where you said Superman had a major role, but wasn't exactly a sequel, or is this a different movie? And is this one actually Superman 2? Yes, sorry. This is the same movie. Superman has a major role. It's not Superman 2. Well, Michael, it certainly sounds like Superman 2.
Yeah, look. And again, at the end of the day, I don't really care. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. It's just one of those funny things where, again, James Gunn says a bunch of stuff, and you're like, dude, if you just hadn't said any of this,
right,
and came out with this image and said Superman, Man of Tomorrow comes out July 27, we'd all be like, cool. Yeah. And aside from just rolling my eyes at James Gunn's James Gunness, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Like, I am like, as much as I think the sequel, not sequel argument is, a silly one.
Yeah.
more Lex Luthor and Superman, like I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it goes. I love the artwork. I love the suit. And also based on that artwork, 2 of those 3 images don't 100% look like they're fighting each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point.
I do wonder, Man of Tomorrow, there's been Superman Man of Tomorrow comics. There's an excellent Man of Tomorrow animated movie from Warner Brothers Animation that our good buddy Tim Sheridan wrote. Sort of a new origin story for Superman. But what I do wonder is the Man of Tomorrow Lex Luthor?
Oh, yeah.
That's my, at least at this point, until we get more information.
Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting about Lex Luthor's motivations in more modern Superman comics, which James Gunn took for the movie, is that Lex Luthor's like, I'm the best that humanity has to offer, and you showed up with your alien self and your stupid trunks and your superpowers, and everyone's more obsessed with you, and I'm actually the better person. And I could do, in the comics, it kind of goes on to be like, I could have done so much to save humanity, but I didn't because I ended up being focused on you.
Right.
And in the most recent Superman comics that have been going on in the past year or so, Lex Luthor from jail, like, started a whole corporation and worked with Superman. And lo and behold, when those two work together, are pretty badass. And so I do wonder if Lex Luthor has been sent to Belle Reve. We know he won't stay there for long. We see the green and purple Lex power suit. Is this a Lex works with the government, Lex makes a deal with Amanda Waller, Lex starts solving the government's problems, kind of becomes like a hero in his own right, but like it has ulterior motives, but then him and Superman have to work together for some big threat that's coming? Like, there's a bunch of ways you could slice it, but what I'm most interested in, and I think this is why I think the Superman movie worked, is I'm intrigued by where you're going to take the Lex Luthor Superman relationship.
Yeah.
And so based on the images, that's central to what this movie is. Wherever direction it goes, Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor and David Corenswet's Superman, they didn't spend a ton of time on screen together. They were both, major parts of the movie, but aside from the being put in the pocket dimension and then stopping him at the end, they weren't on screen a whole lot. And so seeing them together doing their thing even more, I'm intrigued by.
Yeah. Great points, Mike, you bring up here. And I should give a little love to the other authors that are in this, or the other artists, rather, that are part of this artwork that you see there. Jorge Jimenez is there on the right, as I'm looking at it. And then it's Mitch Gerard, as you can see, the big Mitch there on the left. Of course, Jim Lee in the middle. All of that original artwork. And I agree with you, Mike. What's fascinating, what's great about the entertainment nowadays is that a villain is not always a villain. We've seen that in Game of Thrones. We've seen that in so many movies, so many TV shows. A villain will initially be a villain, but then situations, circumstances cause the villain and the hero to line up to work together against another situation that's going on. Could Brainiac be involved in this and be the reason why Luthor and Superman are working together? And remember that, I know some people have criticized the speech now at the end there that he gives to Luthor, but he's coming from the place of, you can be better. You can do good in this world if you aren't so caught up in all this other stuff. So isn't Superman supposed to symbolize what we aspire to? So maybe there is a moment where Lex kind of glimpses the possibility of being a better person than he actually is and letting go of the pettiness and comes together to work with him against Brainiac. But in the end, something happens and we go back to their neutral corners and they're still at odds with each other going forward. So there's a way to make this work. And people loved Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. That's like, I think that's 100% across the board. People had no issues with. So you want to give him even more of a central role. So to me, I like this idea. And yes, I agree. It's really kind of, I know it's middling to argue about it, but yes, if James would just stop lying half the time, in my opinion, or fudging the truth or playing semantics, I think we'd be a much better situation right now.
Listen, I don't think it's nearly as nefarious as that. I think that dude has a happy trigger finger when it comes to social media. And I think at one point, and we won't know until we know, but I think at one point he was writing this movie and he thought it was sort of a indirect sequel. And then maybe as it kept going, he was like, oh no, this is pretty much, or he was writing something that was more of a ensemble piece, and then Zaslav came in after the first 2 weeks, the weekends of box office, and said, no, we're doing a Superman sequel. So there's a lot. I don't think that he outright lies. I think he says things before maybe it's all figured out. But to your other point about the speech at the end of Superman, and I get it. Like, that is a very on the nose speech. And some people think it's cheesy and some people like it because Superman is an on the nose guy. And I think it definitely gets to the core issue between them and their relationship. And, you know, James Gunn was really inspired by Superman for All Seasons by Grant Morrison, which he's been very public about and very complimentary towards that piece of work. But in that one too, I mean, I think Superman really straight up says, like, dude, you're a genius. And if you spent a quarter of the time that you spend coming up with ways to take me out and put that brain power towards anything good, you could be amazing, but you don't. And so, you know, maybe we're just going to get a straight down the line Lex versus Superman. Lex is a bad guy, or Lex pretends to be a good guy and then turns out to be a bad guy at the end. But I think there's an interesting opportunity here for growth with these two characters and to do something a little bit different, to your point, whether that is Brainiac or some other threat that is bigger than the both of them. And I think that has me intrigued. Maybe that's not what it is at all. And then it's going to be something different. And I'm excited that we're getting another Superman movie so soon regardless, but I'm a little bit intrigued by everything right now.
Well, there's two more things to hit on this. We should talk about it, Michael. Isabella Merced retweeted this post and said, "See you soon," or quote tweeted and said, "See you soon." Skylar Gisondo, Jimmy Olsen, also shared this post, and Aaron Pierre, who is going to be in Lanterns, shared this post and said, "Yes, indeed." So we know Rachel Brosnahan is coming back. So could this film also serve as a low-key launch for what is going to become the Justice League? If you have Hawkgirl, if you have Green Lantern, you have Superman, you have Supergirl, you know, Mr. Terrific, I'm sure, is not going to be far behind. Or at this point, are we starting to move closer to a Justice League with this film coming out right after Supergirl and, of course, Clayface, but which rumored may have a Batman appearing in Clayface in one scene or whatever? Could this be also serving as a soft launch of the Justice League?
It could. And this is where I think the tides of what's going on behind the scenes at Warner Brothers might be at play. Like, look, James Gunn has they're called the Justice Gang for a reason. Yeah. He didn't just come out and say we're the Justice League. He started them as the Justice Gang, and based on their general personalities and what we see of them in Peacemaker, this is not the league that you know and love.
Right.
They're a little douchey, even if you like them. Like, I like Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific's the least douchey, and Guy Gardner is Guy Gardner, so he's a douche. But they're kind of douchey. They're a corporate-run superhero team. They're not the Justice League yet. And I do wonder if James Gunn maybe started off going with let's kind of build out this whole idea of the Justice Gang more and do a Justice Gang movie, but Superman will be a part of it and Lex will be a part of it. And then whether his own creative inclinations led him down this road or a corporate mandate led him down this road, it was like, well, great, do your Justice Gang stuff. That can be going on in the background, but let's put Lex and Superman dead center in this.
Yeah, and there's no way Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord is just going to do a scene in Peacemaker, a scene in Superman. There is something bigger coming for him, also because he's his brother, but because Maxwell Lord is a massive part of the DC franchise or DC brand for quite some time now. So that may end up paying dividends down the road. We don't know what role he's going to play, if any at all, in Supergirl. Will this be where we see Brainiac as Supergirl? I don't know. So this is going to be fascinating to see as it builds out and goes forward. Yeah, one more thing?
No, just, I mean, I think in a very good sense, particularly, I mean, we're about to talk about some Marvel stuff that we will be less excited about. But I think that what's good about DC right now, even if I don't love every single thing that James Gunn does, is that, look, there's a plan. We like when there's a plan. We don't like it when we feel like there's not a plan. When Sony did stuff, it was clear to anybody with half a brain there was no plan. What's happening with Marvel right now is concerning because it feels much more like a cobbled together plan than the Infinity Saga did. We don't like it. Say what you want about what's going on at Warner Brothers and how James Gunn tweets, but there's a Superman movie. There is a Justice Gang. The Justice Gang showed up in Peacemaker. Rick Flag is head of Argus and is upset about the entire the pocket dimension that Lex Luthor made, which is why he's concerned about Peacemaker's pocket dimension. We know that there's some big cameos coming in the last couple episodes of this season of Peacemaker. And then we know we have a Supergirl movie where she's going to go off in space and fight Lobo. And then we've got a Superman movie coming where all of these cast members are coming back together. So it does feel like there is forward momentum. Would I love it if we touched on the fact that Hawk Girl killed a foreign leader? Yes. Do I want to see things? Do I want to see more of the Daily Planet? Yes. But like, I just think that it's kind of fun. And then in addition to that, there is the Batman question and the idea that we might see a Batman in this Clayface movie that we don't really know what it's going to be. We know that they are either fast tracking a Wonder Woman movie, or we are excited about a Wonder Woman movie since James Gunn doesn't want to say they're fast tracking anything, but Wonder Woman is on the horizon. And to your point about Aaron Pierre, we've got Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart coming out on TV. And if his tweet is any indication, we will probably see Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner along with some other gang members that will eventually maybe become League members. So if you're a DC fan, there's a lot to be intrigued about right now.
Yeah, I would say this feels very similar to how we felt at the beginning of Marvel, the excitement of what's possible. And I do want to say we need to give, at least from my end, a little more like, well, you know, we do have a plan now, but it wasn't the plan that was presented when he first came out and said all these things and these 13 things. The plan has adjusted because clearly, as what happens, and I'm sure James Gunn learned this, maybe one day he'll admit it, is that he had all these plans at the beginning, but as things morphed and changed and all of that kind of stuff, this is what the plan became now. But I do agree with you. It does feel like these are steps forward in the DC universe that excite people with superheroes, with actors that are coming in to play these superheroes and get us excited to see what we're going to get. That is, if you enjoyed his Superman. I guess if maybe you did enjoy Superman, it's going to be more of the James Gunn approach to this stuff, so you may not be in on this, but a majority of people who liked Superman who went to see it, and so that should get people excited to see what we're going to get down the road. And yeah, I mean, we'll see. We're going to with the Clayface stuff. I mean, Robert Pattinson was asked recently about like what kind of villains he likes in the Batman universe, and he said Clayface as one of them. He says he likes the fantastical one. So is that opening the door possibly to Pattinson going over? We will see, because the Batman issues you said is really the next thing, because that leads to what the next question I want to ask you before we move on from this topic is, we are going to get 2 Superman movies and a Supergirl movie before we see the Batman Part 2. It's coming out, in July of 27. Batman 2 is scheduled for October 2027 in the same year. Superman, Man of Tomorrow, and the Batman Part 2. So is that a coincidence? Is that maybe opening the door to the possibility? What do you think about this release date? And that we're going to see 3 of these movies, 4 if you include Clayface, before we see the Batman Part 2.
I mean, look, that's on Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves took his time to write that script. Whether it was but I mean, it is like, I mean, I don't think that
telling me you got to change this, you got to change this, you got to change this. I think it's a little bit on Gunn as well, but
you don't know. I mean, you are surmising that is true.
Yeah, true, very true.
And if the Batman 2 comes out, and again, look, I don't trust anything James Gunn tweets. If the Batman 2 comes out and Robin is all of a sudden a character in it, and Robert Pattinson or Commissioner Gordon makes some comment about all those crazy things happening in Metropolis with the pocket dimension, then sure. Then yes, probably part of Matt Reeves' struggle was he had to make a square movie fit into a round cinematic universe, and he had challenges with that. But if it's not that, then it just took him a long time. Like, at the end of the day, I think everybody would have loved to have gotten a Batman 2 sooner. But, as a DC fan, I'm thrilled that we're going to get a Superman and a Batman movie in the same year, within months of each other.
Bro, we could be doing really well for 3 years.
Yeah, and look, whether the Batman 2 all of a sudden becomes a part of the bigger DC universe or it remains separate and we get a brand new Batman, I'm really excited to see what Matt Reeves does with the next chapter of his saga. And I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with the next chapter of his saga. To your point, if you don't like James Gunn's Superman, you're probably less excited than I am. But I'm jazzed to see where all this stuff goes.
Okay. Yeah, I am too. I can't deny, as much as I give James Gunn shit, for the things he says, and I think at times rightfully so. But I can't deny that I'm excited about this stuff, and I liked that Superman movie. So if we're gonna get more of that kind of energy coursing through these films, then yeah, I'm definitely on board and excited. And as Peacemaker 2 has shown us, season 2, he's not afraid to go a little darker, go a little R-rated to balance out some of the more kind of wholesome stuff that happens in Superman. And I appreciate that in a creator or in a person in charge of an entire universe, that they're willing to go dark when it calls for it, and they're willing to go lighter when it calls for it, and everything in between. And judging from Clayface, judging from what we're going to get in Lanterns, which is supposed to be a much more grittier series, that makes me very excited. And Clayface with a horror film, that gets me very excited to see what we're going to get.
Well, I think that's going to be the big indication for a lot of people. Like, if you are not a fan of James Gunn and you didn't like the Superman movie, I'm assuming you're not excited about Man of Steel. But if James Gunn is true to his word about what he said, you might still really like Clayface, and you still might really like Supergirl. Right. Like, that's what, if those movies come out and it kind of feels like James Gunn's cinematic fingerprints are all over them as well, I think that'll be an interesting discussion. But if Clayface comes out and it's some straight up horror movie in Gotham City, which is what they keep saying, and if Supergirl comes out and feels tonally very, very different from James Gunn's Metropolis, I think that is going to be a plus for the DC universe versus what Marvel chose, which we all very much loved when it was working, which is, there's a little bit of a difference. You get your Kuglers, you get your Watitis, you get your Guns, but the Marvel universe has a general feel and tone to it. And if DC does a different thing, I think that could really work for them.
Yeah, you want the excitement, and people are excited. That's what you want at this point, and they've got that in high numbers. But before we leave DC, let's talk about this real quick. Speaking of the Batman, Colin Farrell has admitted that he has read the script for the Batman Part 2. He's now the 8th person to have read the script, according to James Gunn's numbers, of the Batman 2 script. And when asked about it, he said that he found the script to be extraordinary, and that I haven't got much to do on it, just a little bit. So that has caused some tongues wagging on this one, Michael, because it seems like he's saying he's not in that much of the movie. And a lot of people thought that the Penguin series was setting up with him to be the next big baddie in Gotham, going toe to toe with Batman. So is this Colin maybe saying that, he's only in a small part of it and not to expect much? Because there's rumors that Matt Reeves is going to make him a bigger part of Batman Part 3, if there is a 3. So what are your thoughts on his quick little comments about the Batman Part 2 script and his role?
Well, my thought is, if this last length of time is any indication, I hope Colin Farrell can still play the Penguin when he's 89 years old for that third movie. No, look, I think that this is the same thing. This is the same thing of Matt Reeves had a plan, and when Matt Reeves set out to do his second movie, he knew they were going to do a Penguin series. I don't think anybody could have guessed that the Penguin series would have been as good as it was, and as well received as it was. Critically well received, like the fans freaked out. Like, I think that Oz Cobb took us all by surprise, and that series really elevated Penguin in all of our minds to a much higher degree. But Matt Reeves already had his movie figured out and was writing it. And if that movie didn't have a huge role for Oz Cobb, that, to your point, could have been another thing that you're like, hey, this script is great. Penguin was huge for us. Should he have a bigger role? And you're like, no, this script is done. I'll give him a bigger role in the third movie. Oh, okay, cool. Like, so, I think that's another one of those things. It's, there's a constantly shifting what's working and what's not working. And it's hard to gauge sometimes, is this what the person creating this universe wanted to do? Is this what they're being told to do? Whatever. But I think that, am I a little bit disappointed to hear that he's not a bigger part in it? Yeah, because I love Penguin. But am I excited to see what Matt Reeves is coming up with? Yes.
Do you anticipate there's talk that Kristen Milioti and maybe even Zoe Kravitz, as Jeff talked about on the hot mic, she might not be coming back to be Catwoman. So do you think that we're moving on from those heroes for now, and they're opening the door for maybe other villains to step in, so they will fill that void, and then eventually we'll circle back to Penguin and Catwoman and Kristen Milioti's character to be a part of Part 3?
I mean, it's hard to say. You know, I'll give you a for example. When Harvey Dent died at the end of Dark Knight, I was disappointed.
Yes.
Because I was like, oh, you just finally got the Two-Face origin story right and you killed him. But when you get to Dark Knight Rises and you realize that Nolan really wanted to tell this contained story, everyone kind of got their moment to shine. And okay, like Harvey Dent's death actually really drove a lot of the story. Similarly, if Matt Reeves is just telling his own little pocket universe over here and he's doing 3 movies, maybe his arc for Batman doesn't involve Selena Kyle beyond what she gave him in the first movie. You know, maybe that is what we see of her. And then in the second movie, we're going to get these new characters in the third movie. Now, if all of a sudden this Gotham City becomes the mainline DC Universe Gotham City, I think all bets are off and people coming back into the story, or Colin Farrell's Oz Cobb having a bigger role. Like there's a version of this where it's just its own little story over here. And then there's a version where it just gets shoved into the bigger DC universe.
Yeah.
And I know that James Gunn keeps saying that's not going to happen, but his protests have become a bit more vague. And I still am just not sure which way that's going to fall.
Okay. All right. I'm going to throw you a curveball here on this one, Michael, because I just remember that this dropped earlier this week, or people speculating with this. What are your thoughts on this real quick? And this is connected to the Lanterns here. I don't know if you saw this, but people are speculating that Garrett Dillahunt may have just confirmed his role as Black Hand in DC Studios' Lanterns. As you see in the picture there, he is putting himself above the Black Hand situation. Then you've got PBE there, and you've got another actress play. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think he's just confirmed it? And does this excite you to have this storyline be part of the Lantern storyline? Or are people making more of this than it actually is? I guess just throw that out.
From what I understand of Lanterns as a more grounded, true detective style Lantern story, I don't know how far we're going to get into the wider aspects of the land. I know Sinestro's in it. I know we're going to see parts of things like that, but I don't know how far we're going to get into the broader parts of the Lantern Corps and the different Lantern Corps and everything else. So I would remain a little bit cautious about that one.
Okay. Yeah, because he is playing the villainous William McCone in the series. Where would that go? We will see. Paul Ben Victor, who I call Paul PBB, he is playing Anton. So we'll see what comes of him in the role that's set up. And of course, we know that Ulrich Thompson is playing Sinestro. Those are the guys in the picture. So an interesting threesome that are coming together. If this is the threesome coming together through really good actors to be a part of Lanterns, which adds even more weight and, dare I say, gravitas to the series. So we will see. Well, let's move away from DC. Let's stay in. This is our superhero block. Let's move on to this interesting story here. Channing Tatum, so, as some of you may know, Channing Tatum is going to be in the new Avengers Doomsday movie because he's friends with Ryan Reynolds and he was in Deadpool and Wolverine. But when asked recently by Variety about his appearance in the film and what he's going to be doing in the film, especially because a lot of people made fun of his terribly comical Cajun accent in Deadpool and Wolverine, and were confused about what he was saying, this was his answer. Quote, "I'm not going to go full Cajun." He explained that while Doomsday directors Anthony Russo and Joe Russo, quote, "want things to be funny," they, quote, "don't want to go full Deadpool. They want to keep the drama and keep it tight. When Gambit gets serious, when he drops the Mardi Gras mask, things do matter." He also spoke about an injury he suffered on set. So his stunt double was apparently doing any of the fight scenes with Dr. Doom in the finale, which apparently is going to lead to a fight there at the end of Doomsday. So, Michael, he is Cajun. What are we doing here? What are your thoughts?
Well, okay.
Clarify for us, please.
Look, Channing Tatum is a very, very funny actor, which I think when Channing Tatum first started out, nobody realized. And then we all found out that Channing Tatum is fucking hilarious. Yeah. And what Channing Tatum was doing in Deadpool, and I'm going to defend something that I don't like. Am I excited that he is Gambit in this movie? I am not. I think Channing Tatum as Gambit was a very funny gag in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I do not on any level need him with the other X-Men in this movie. But he is in the movie, and I do think that, to be fair to Channing Tatum, what he is saying is he was purposefully doing a funny Cajun accent. The whole joke in Deadpool and Wolverine is that nobody knows what the fuck he's saying. Right. Like, he's just it's very pushed. Yeah. And in the same way that when Chris Hemsworth went from Ragnarok to Infinity War, he and Taika had worked out this very funny kind of dumb Thor vibe, and he really wanted to bring that to Infinity War. And the Russo brothers were like, no, this has to be serious. And they found this balance where Thor was still a little bit more Ragnarok than he had been in Age of Ultron, but he still had his more grounded, the deeper, heavier moments that he got to have with Rocket and everything else. And it really worked. So if I'm trusting the Russo brothers, I'm trusting that they are going to tone down some of the sillier aspects of Channing Tatum's Gambit and have him show up. And look, in a movie the size of Doomsday, I don't think that Gambit has a huge arc. I think he's going to show up and do cool Gambit things. So maybe they're going to do the same thing with Channing Tatum that they did with Chris Hemsworth Thor.
Yeah.
If I'm not trusting the Russo brothers, I don't think he belongs in this movie. I think it is silly. I don't think anybody thinks of Channing Tatum as a mainline X-Men, and seeing him all of a sudden up there with Halle Berry and Famke Janssen and Alan Cumming and everybody else, I'm like, okay, it's one of those additions that makes you go, does Marvel really have their finger on the pulse of what the fans want?
Yeah. And this is where I have my issue with it, because I think it's Ryan throwing his weight around, even though he said, like, I honestly don't know what's going on behind closed doors in the bookkeeping sessions at Marvel. Bullshit. But I do know that they're obsessed with him in that role. Speaking of Channing Tatum as Gambit, he said this to EW. It's kind of like the same situation I went through. Once you show that it works well, that's really what they need. Sometimes they just need to see it in action. This is nonsense. People made fun of Channing Tatum as Gambit after Deadpool and Wolverine. It's one of the running jokes about that movie was how terrible his accent was and how no one could understand him and how cheesy he played that. That being said, what they might have adjusted, and this is my opinion, what they might have adjusted, though, is nothing says that the Gambit that is in Doomsday is that Gambit from The Void. It could be a different Gambit if we're playing with multiverses who comes in and plays it a much more serious, much more down the line type of Gambit. It still has humor in certain moments, because Gambit does have humorous moments in the X-Men comics, but also can get serious. Now, I don't know Channing to do really good works in serious fare. As you say, I think he's better served in comedies, but who knows? Maybe he can do a good job with this. It's the dropping of the Cajun stuff that bothers me, because in the comics, it isn't like he puts it on, you know what I'm saying?
But again, what he's saying, I mean, look, coming out of Deadpool and Wolverine, I would disagree with you a little bit. I don't think the running joke of Deadpool and Wolverine was, oh my God, Channing Tatum was so horrible. I couldn't understand him.
Afterwards, I mean,
coming out of Deadpool and Wolverine, it was, oh my God, Channing Tatum was hilarious. His Cajun accent was insane. I couldn't understand him. Like, it is purposefully what it is for a Deadpool and Wolverine movie.
Maybe
like I don't think
different people then.
I don't think that Channing Tatum did what he did in Deadpool and Wolverine and thought he was doing a good job. Like, the whole joke is that Deadpool is like, buddy, I don't understand a goddamn thing that you just said. Like, that is the joke. So he's successfully completed his assignment for that movie. And all that he's saying here really is, guys, I'm not going to show up in Doomsday and go, I'm gonna make a man. I'm gonna make a name for myself. Like, he's not gonna do that. It's gonna be pulled back a little bit. He's not saying Gambit is not Cajun.
He's saying, again, when he says put the Mardi Gras mask face on, that to me says that he is going to stop being Cajun for certain moments and put it on for other moments. That's how I read it. I might be wrong, but that's how
I think that he or his PR people or the Marvel PR people are just getting in front of the fact that everybody was like, he was kind of a joke in Deadpool and Wolverine. Is he really going to be in the movie? And they're like, look, we're not doing the joke Gambit. We're doing Gambit. Like, he's just Gambit now. And you're like, okay, again, you were putting me in the position of defending this. And I wish he wasn't in the movie, but I do feel like what he is saying is, once you've decided he's going to be in the movie, what he is saying here is what you should be saying.
Yeah, that's fair. And look, I put you in that position because it's good for us to talk about these things and have opposing points of view so people can feel represented in these conversations. So I'm glad you were willing to
take that on. I am taking on I don't want Channing Tatum in this movie, and yet I will defend Channing Tatum's comments because this is what he should say category for all of you that fall into that very narrow piece of the fandom.
So true. So true. All right, but that's everything for our superhero block. Technically. So let's move on to trailers here. Unfortunately, we don't have Shannon McClung to give us the trailers. But we do have 3 trailers to talk about, and let's talk about a superhero one, and that's Marvel Zombies. What about this trailer, Michael? A lot of people coming out of the 60-second trailer were just absolutely floored at how great the animation was here, how gory and brutal some of the kills were, and how it felt like Marvel was going for it in a trailer like this, especially on the heels of Eyes of Wakanda coming and poof, disappearing without anyone commenting on it. This one getting much more traction, of course, based on what happened in the run that was in the comic books and also that one episode of What If. What did you think about this trailer as the animation guy, as the animation executive producer? What are your feelings about this trailer? And did this one knock it out of the park?
Well, it's funny because they did the thing that I make fun of trailers that do this for right off the bat. Like when Echo came out, I even think when Daredevil Born Again came out, where I've dinged Marvel for when you have nothing else to talk about with a trailer, you talk about how violent it is. Like all they said about Echo was, oh, the most intense violence you've ever seen in a Marvel TV show. And then we watched Echo and we were like, yeah, well, that was the only thing you had going for you. In animation, I do think it's a little bit different because when you see something that's animated, there's automatically an assumption that this is family friendly or it's this or it's young or it's humorous. And I do think doing this trailer the way you did, particularly when it is a zombie show, you really just set up what the expectation was for this show. And I think in this case, it really did work for them.
Yeah.
I think saying we're going to do a zombie show, but we are going to go like hardcore zombie shit in animation. And we're not going to pull punches because we're doing a cartoon and then proceed to show you some really cool shit. It wasn't just, oh, look, there was some bloody zombie moments. Like there were some epic sword fights. Like for me personally, seeing Spider-Man swing above an army of zombies and use his webs to rip off multiple zombie heads at once, I was like, all right, well, that's fucking cool. So I thought it was good. You know, as far as the style and the look, this isn't a new look for Marvel. I mean, this is the What If team. Like this is what we saw in Marvel Zombies What If episode is what this show is going to look like. But I like the What If style. I think it works for them. I think it's a cool style. When you're going to do the MCU animated where everybody kind of looks like their MCU counterparts and is voiced most of the time by their MCU counterpart, I think this style really works.
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway that I had when I watched this trailer was, oh, look, when Marvel does what they're supposed to do, it's good. Meaning, oh, all those characters that you introduced in Phase 4 that almost never met each other in any of the movies, when you throw all of them together, fans get excited. When you see Shang-Chi and Yelena Belova and Miss Marvel and Spider-Man and God, who else is in that trailer? Everybody. Blade.
Blade Knight, which is the Moon Knight
like,
variation.
Yeah, when you see all of these different characters shoved together in an adventure, you're like, oh, these guys are cool together.
Yeah.
Wish we had seen more of that in the movies. Yes, we're all going to see it in Doomsday, but like, had we seen this more throughout Phase 4, I think Marvel might not be in the situation they are right now. But yeah, all in all, like, I had the same reaction everybody else on Twitter and social media seemed to have, which is we might not be thrilled with the direction that Marvel is going. Fantastic Four might have underperformed. We might be dubious about Doomsday, but that Marvel Zombies trailer, we're like, oh yeah, I'll fucking watch that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Really good. I know. I agree. I thought it was fantastic. I agree with you on the violence stuff, but when it comes
you
to
always like the violence, though. That's how you are their core audience. If you have a trailer come out and say it's gonna be bloody and dark, you're like, this is what I want. This is cinema. But I'm the one who's like watching it arms folded and like, yeah, violence is great. What else have you got?
You're like, what's the story? Shut up. Let him kill people. But no, I hear you. But yeah, with animation, you're absolutely right. I think you nailed it so well because, of course, you know so much about these things, Michael. And with animation, like the way you get people into people have more allowances for this stuff because they want to enjoy it because it's mirroring what they see in the comic books, and so I like that. But I do enjoy seeing the voice cast. We get more with Florence Pugh. There is Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Rudd, David Harbour, Tessa Thompson, Simu Liu, Awkwafina, Haley Steinfeld, Wyatt Russell, Randall Park, Iman Vellani, Dominique Thorne, and Todd Williams is voicing Blade Knight. So a very strong cast of the actors who played them live action being a part of this and coming back to voice this and give it some authenticity, even though it's not canon. It gives it authenticity within the MCU, and I like that element of it all. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
and look, I mean, the Marvel Zombies episode, like the Scarlet Witch zombie, like everything they did was really good. And so, you know, it was a story that kind of made you want to spend more time in the universe. And I think it's good that they are doing this. And the other thing I would say about violence in animation, because it is something that I do find often funny, which is animation fans love it when something is super violent in animation. And I'm always like, why is that? And I do think, again, kind of getting back to that core point about what else have you got? Yeah. It's not that we're excited for a super bloody, violent cartoon. Okay. Although, like, that is going to look cool. Like, you can make it look super cool in animation. And I think the trailer featured some really, really cool moments. But I think the reason that animation fans get excited when an animated show is TVMA and it pulls no punches and it is super violent is because it means that the entire story can be dark. Yes. It means the entire story can be a much more adult, darker story. You're not going to pull any punches. You're not going to give me the cute Disney ending. Like, I love a Disney ending and I love a Pixar movie, but I also love, anime. And I also love stories that really get into the nitty gritty. And this feels like you can tell from the trailer, it's definitely going to have that signature Marvel humor, but it feels like they could do a lot more with it. So I'm definitely excited to check it out. Yeah, we're about to get Demon Slayer coming, and there's elements of violence in that's coming out as a theatrical feature very soon. Yep. Here in our theater, I think in September rather. And real quick, for those of you who may not know much about this Marvel zombie stuff, it is written by Robert Kirkman, who of course did the Walking comic stuff. And, the comic is written. So if you want to get a little background on it and go through the comic, read the comic here. It was, as I said, written by Robert Kirkman with art by Sean Phillips, and the covers were by Arthur Suydam. So definitely look and read those if you want a little background before you watch this series. And I'm sure we're going to review it. It's only 4 episodes, and I think it's coming out on September 24th. 4 episods, boom. So we'll definitely be able to review it. I don't love the 4 episode thing. Okay. Well, it's a contained story. It'll be but like, listen, I'm going to tell you something about animation right now. Given how long it takes to make animation and given the cost of animation, when you go, we have a 4 episode series. It's not because somebody was like, I've got this vision for an amazing show, but it's only 4 episodes long. No showrunner comes in and says, I got a great 4 episode series. You'll have a great 10 episode series. You'll have a great 20 episode series. The studio will say you have to do it in 8 episodes, but 4 episode series means we're tight on our budget. We're going to make these each look really good. We're going to spend money on these, but we're only going to spend money on this much. Right. And it's the same with Eyes of Wakanda. Like 4 episodes is like barely a meal. Like that's like, if it's great, great. But give me a 10 episode season of animation, man. Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with you, but I'm hoping it's a tight story, but you know more about the stuff than I do, man. So I mean, it's going to have to be, because if it's 4 episodes. That's true. Well, speaking of drama, let's move on to this trailer before we get to the TV spot you want to talk about. And this one came out this week, or sorry, today as we're recording this episode. This is Catherine Bigelow's latest film called House of Dynamite. It premiered at this week at the Venice Film Festival. We're coming out on October 3rd in the UK and October 10th in the US. This one stars Rebecca Ferguson and Idris Elba, Gabriel Basso, Jared Harris, Tracy Letts, Anthony Ramos, who is popping up in all kinds of interesting stuff lately, Moses Ingram, Greta Lee, who is very featured in the trailer, and Jason Clarke. It centers on a team of government officials attempting to navigate an impending nuclear attack on the city of Chicago. Elba plays the U.S. president, while Ferguson portrays military communications lead Captain Olivia Walker. This was just a teaser trailer, like 1:37 seconds. 27 seconds. What are your thoughts on this, Michael? Did this get you excited? Catherine Bigelow, Point Break, Zero Dark 30, The Hurt Locker. What are your thoughts on this? This trailer terrified me. More than zombies? Okay. Yeah, zombies. I'll take zombies all day. I'm not Shannon. You give me horror, give me demons, give me The Conjuring, give me a bunch of children running out of their houses at 2:17 a.m. and never coming back. Like, I don't care. Give it all to me. Give me a movie that Catherine Bigelow really researched heavily, and the entire point of the movie is if all out nuclear war happened, we're basically fucked, and let me show you in great detail how fucked we are. That's actually terrifying, particularly when you consider some of the people we currently have holding office. The response from the Venice Film Festival was very much, oh shit, this is terrifying. That this is a super, super tense movie that really sort of puts a spotlight on how few options we actually have if shit were to hit the fan. So it looks great, but I'm going to be very stressed watching this movie.
Yeah. Hollywood Reporter critic David Rooney said it's, quote, an unrelenting chokehold thriller, so controlled, kinetic, and unsettlingly immersive that you stagger out at the end of it wondering if the world will still be intact. Catherine Bigelow, when asked about it during the Venice Film Festival there, she said, how can we call this, quote, defense when the inevitable outcome is total destruction? I wanted to make a film that confronts this paradox to explore the madness of a world that lives under the constant shadow of annihilation, yet rarely speaks of it. And even Rebecca Ferguson in her interview said, look, I'm rarely political, but doing this film made me explore what's actually going on with the nuclear side of things. And you're 100% correct to bring it up, the conversation about the people in charge right now, because we just had an announcement yesterday about moving our nuclear space command there over to Alabama from Colorado. And the problem is that that's going to take some time to deconstruct what we did in Colorado and head it over to Alabama. We may lose the ability to track nuclear weapons during this gap in time. So this is a scary situation when you're messing with nuclear weapons. It'll take some time before everything starts being dismantled and moved, but still might be a gap of time where we will not be able to monitor possible nuclear threats for a little bit of time. So it is a scary situation overall. And I like that a fantastic filmmaker like Catherine Bigelow is diving in. I love Rebecca Ferguson in this trailer, Jason Clarke, Greta Lee. It's so great to see very strong actors being a part of this to convey the weight of what Bigelow wants to get across here. So looking forward to it. October 10th on Netflix. And Michael, and let's go to something lighter, and that is Wicked for Good dropped a 30-second TV spot in this one, Michael. We got ourselves more of Glinda and all of that, but then Elphaba coming in to kind of possibly mess up things. And we get more with the Wizard of Oz characters and the wizard himself kind of putting a twist on the Wizard of Oz story by saying, I need you to bring me the broom. And the reason is because we know the backstory from the first part. So what did you think of this 30-second TV spot that we got for Wicked for Good?
Well, first I have to tell everybody listening that the reason that we're not reviewing 28 Years Later, the Bone Temple trailer, is because I haven't watched 28 Years Later yet. And when John wanted to talk about it, I said I didn't want to talk about the Bone Temple when I haven't seen the first one. So calm down. I'm going to watch 28 Years Later this weekend. I'm going to get around to it. I'm excited for Nia DaCosta directing a movie. But, and Ralph Fiennes looks really bloody in it. But I am very excited for this 30-second spot. I'm excited. Look, I think it's wild that we're almost to November.
Yeah.
And it feels like we just ended the entire Wicked Part 1 press tour like 3 weeks ago. Like Wicked Part 1 came out, and it was just such a barrage of trailers and press tours and holding space for Defying Gravity's lyrics and all of the things that happened. And it's like no sooner did that die down than the Wicked for Good sort of like started chugging. And here we are in September. Like we're just a few months away from Wicked for Good. And I'm stoked. I'm jazzed. Like I honestly do think that Wicked for Good is going to eclipse all of the summer movies that have been battling out at the box office. I think it's going to be an absolutely massive hit. And I think this trailer, even though it's a really small TV spot, really got to the heart. There's one moment where Fiyero says to Glinda, like, oh, you know, you love all this, or something like that. And she said, well, who could deny all this? And he was like, we know who could. And I think that gets to the core of what Wicked, particularly the second act of Wicked, is about, where we kind of come back in sometime after Defying Gravity, and Glinda has made the decisions that she has made that have put her in a position that she is in. Elphaba has made the decisions that she has made that have put her in the position that she is in. And their personalities put them in very different parts of Oz, and seeing how that all comes back together, how they come back together, like that's the fun of Wicked. And the fact that, you know, with Wicked Part 1 going in, particularly since John hasn't seen Wicked at all and didn't know anything about it, Wicked Part 1, the fun of it was knowing that we were going to get a movie that started at the beginning and ended with Defying Gravity, and really knowing that even though they were going to make some additions to it, like that's pretty much what it was. Yeah. Wicked Part 2 with 2 brand new songs in it and a bunch of story tying in the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy in a much bigger way. There's going to be a lot more surprises, even for people who are big fans of Wicked. And I think this trailer hinted at some of that as well. So I'm excited. I think Wicked is going to be an absolute beast. And it's just like, it's fun seeing Universal have such a massive franchise hit on their hands that with just 2 movies, Wicked has become like a mega franchise in Universal's orbit, which I think is fun to watch happen in real time.
It's going to be curious to see what we get when we get it, and if there's going to be spinoffs that are, of course, not source material spinoffs. I think it's going to be fascinating to see if they do end up doing that, because as you said, if these are juggernauts, you don't just stop at the second one. You have to keep going and see what you can create out of it and how exciting it could be, because there are other L. Frank Baum Oz books. Now, there's not obviously other musicals based on those books that are in the vein of Wicked, but doesn't mean you can't open the door to see what you can create. So we'll see. But yeah, I came away from this 30-second trailer excited for the movie. And remember, I had my arms folded about that first one, really loved it. And now I want to see what we're going to get in the second one. And for me, because I haven't seen the musical, what hooked me was the Wizard of Oz stuff. That to me is going to be so interesting, how much they weave into this film. And of course, this year, Wizard of Oz, and right now is kind of massive thing with what they're doing at the Sphere in Vegas. People falling back in love with this movie, appreciating this movie. We're going to do it on the Cinephiles later this year. And so like, it's going to be exciting to see how to be in this Wizard of Oz kind of place through November, and then seeing if the film really kills it and what these characters will do and how they'll change the story or change our perception of that movie, depending on what they do with the characters in the story, you know?
Yeah, look, Wicked was a huge. What did Wicked end? What did Wicked top out at? Like 700 global? What was it?
Yeah, I think around, it was 700, like something like that. I can look it up real quick.
So again, like a massive hit. It didn't cross $1 billion. What I think is going to
755.
755. So I think what's going to be interesting to see is, I think one of the things you said, I think is very true. I think that Wicked was such a massive hit that there are some people who didn't see Wicked out there who either watched it on streaming, or with Wicked 2 coming out, they're like, oh, I didn't see the first one, I need to watch it. And then they'll want to go see Wicked 2. So like that because it's now proven that it was a hit, it was very successful. But I think also, to your point, the fact that this overlaps so much more with the Wizard of Oz story, which everybody is familiar with, I think the more they lean into that in the marketing, the more the people are like, oh, this is like Wizard of Oz from the witch's perspective, which it all is, but this much more specifically is than part 1. I think that might get a lot more people. So I think it's going to be a huge hit. As for the spinoff thing, like I'm of 2 minds about it. Part of me is like, I love this universe that John M. Chu created. I think it's amazing. I think if there was more stories to tell, more songs to sing, I am all down for it. I also get shades of Peter Jackson making 3 movies out of The Hobbit.
How dare you? How dare you?
And that was very much the law of diminishing returns. And we were like, we all love The Lord of the Rings. We think Peter Jackson did the Lord's work, and Lord of the Rings is still one of the trilogies that we all hold up as one of our favorite geek trilogies. The Hobbit.
You know what? You keep saying we all, and I don't think you understand what that word means. I think you keep using that word and you don't understand what it means. It was all of us didn't enjoy Lord of the Rings fully as much as some.
First of all, everybody enjoys Lord of the Rings. There's no single person on the planet who doesn't love that movie. You can say what you done. You can say whatever you want. The number of times that you referred to yourself as Gimli and said nobody tosses a dwarf, and you were in it, you were like, I am a dwarf. Like we talked about it.
Right. Well, that's why I love The Hobbit, because it's about the dwarves, it's about the men. I'm down with it. I'm down with it.
Nah,
but
man.
Anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens, but it looks fantastic. So, and of course, we are going to cover it like crazy on the Geek Buddies and review it and all of that. So,
because one of us is gay.
It's true. One of us might be gay, Jason. All right, so let's move on to a little more of a darker edge after leaving from Wicked. Let's move on to our spoiler review here for Alien Earth, episode 5. Let me bring up my notes here. In Space, No one. This was written and directed by Noah Hawley. This is essentially, Michael, it felt like he was redoing Alien, but the way he would have redone it, yet it was still fantastic and gripping and tense and gory as hell and scary, and had me crawling under my couch with the way these creatures were going inside people's bodies. This was a flashback episode, in essence, to the Maginot ship and what happened with the crew, awakening from cryo sleep, the rampage of killer aliens throughout the ship. And it showed us a flashback with the information that the Maginot was actually sabotaged by a disgruntled employee who was working for Kid Cavalier here, this guy Petrovich. So what were your thoughts on this particular episode, Michael? And is this the best episode of the season? What are your thoughts here?
Is this the best episode of the It'll be up there. We'll see. We'll see where the rest of the season goes. What I think is great about this series is I was so hooked. I mean, I've been hooked from the get-go, but after the end of last week's episode with Wendy sort of communicating / charming the xenomorph when it burst out of her brother's lung. And I was like, oh, fuck, I can't wait to see where this goes next. And then we got to this episode. I turned it on last night and you're like, oh, this is the flashback, what happened on the Maginot episode, which for a split second, I was disappointed in because I really want to see where things are going to go on Neverland. But to your point, like this was Noah Hawley's love letter to Alien.
Yeah.
Like this was, let's go through all the beats of the Alien movie with some other things thrown in. Yeah. And the care with which they made it feel so much like the Nostromo, like just like, you know, from the set design and the art direction to the look of the crew, everything that we said in the first episode when we saw them briefly, but kind of doubling down and getting into who these characters were a little bit more. But in addition to that, really getting to flesh out Morrow's backstory.
Right.
Not only what we learned with Morrow about him having a daughter and that daughter kind of growing up while he was off in space on this job and then dying in a fire and him, you know, losing her, but also Morrow having to deal with maybe one of the worst crews that we've ever seen in life in a lot of ways.
I mean, 65 years in space, Michael, that, you know, not a lot of people survive that. Yeah.
And I think what's interesting about the show, taking a step back from this was Ridley Scott's Alien, like we really went through all these beats and it was super fun to watch, is that a big part of this show is sort of an examination on what it means to be human and what it means to be not human, a synth, a xenomorph, other things. And a lot of characters' personalities and core beliefs are built around their opinion on humanity. Like Kirsch really looks down on humanity. Wendy and a lot of the Lost Boys are trying to like retain their humanity or find their humanity as these brains that have been downloaded into synthetic bodies. And trying to be like, what's the best? Like being human is great. I get to make my own choices. I'm pregnant. I can name myself. I still love my brother. And then you have Morrow, who in the second episode kind of said to Smee and Slightly that he kind of implied that he liked his robot half better than his human half, that like he didn't care as much about his human half. And so watching him go on this journey and seeing sort of the disdain that he had for a lot of his crew, but also kind of the justified disdain. Like ultimately anybody who wants to take these creatures back to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is a bad guy in my book at the end of the day. But from Morrow's perspective, he was hired to do a job. He was doing his job and the rest of the crew kept fucking up. Like, yes, they had a saboteur, but there's not one person on that crew that you go, well, you did a great job.
Yes.
Like, they're all really, really flawed. And so Morrow ultimately coming to where we see him in the earlier episodes, having an opinion on humanity and being like, look, all I got left is I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do it right. Particularly that he now has the knowledge, which was new information, that Boy Cavalier was behind everything.
Yes.
That this wasn't just an accident, that Boy Cavalier straight up arranged for that ship to crash on his doorstep so he could take everything. So you're kind of like, look, I don't want to see all the characters that I like die. But if Morrow sticks it to Boy Cavalier, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was like, so there was a lot going on thematically. Like, even though this did feel kind of like its own little bottle episode that was just an homage to Alien, what I'm really saying is there was a lot going on thematically that still tied into the other things that we've been seeing in the other episodes, which really made it even more compelling.
Yeah, I agree with so much of what you said, Michael. And I like that we got more time with these actors and characters, because we only saw them in the first episode for a little bit of time, especially when you look at Richa Morjani, who plays Zaverny. Let me bring her up real quick. I really liked getting a lot of time with her and seeing what she did on the ship here and seeing her trying to lead these guys. And I enjoyed the other gentleman on the screen there, Amir Boutros, who plays Rahim. Rahim basically stated the whole situation, saying these are the things where you realize that intelligent people do dumb shit. Like, intelligent people can build these spaceships to get us out into space, yet they're dumb enough to bring parasites back to their planet that could possibly kill these people. And I think I read this in the Vulture review, which I thought was really good, is they were saying, like, what's great about the alien world and a lot of the recent sci-fi is they show you that in the past, like in the 50s and 60s, it was always like these incredibly intelligent scientists and good people who were going out into space. And now the reality is that the people who would sign up for a 65-year trip where they leave their families behind and their families will age and die are more of these grunts, more of these people desperate for money, more of these people who are not necessarily going to follow all the rules. And I think the corporations count on that because they're in essence expendable. And throughout the whole movie, this episode, it's clear they're expendable. It gets reiterated over and over again how Mother is like, the cargo is priority one, everyone else is expendable. Acknowledge. And so so you talk about humanity, it's also showing how dispensable humanity is to the corporate bigwigs, to the people who run these things, people like Boy Cavalier, Yutani. All of that is also an undercurrent throughout of this, because these are just regular people trying to make money. And yes, they're going to have sex with each other. They're going to maybe be careless at times in the science room. That happens. But this is life.
That was a level of careless that you can fuck off with that level of careless in the science lab.
Well, I'm not saying I agree with it, but look how we rumored that we possibly got COVID. Like, there's these things. Scientists sometimes do fuck up in certain times, and we pay the price for it. You know.
But and to your point about the expendable thing, like, look, this is a tried and true part of Aliens. Like Mother told Ash in Alien that the crew was expendable.
Yes.
In Aliens, like, I think this whole episode reminded me of Ripley's line to I was going to say Paul Rudd. What's it? Paul Reiser. To Paul Reiser, where it's like Paul Rudd's dad. Where she says to Carter, when Carter was going to do the same thing, kind of get everyone impregnated and bring them back, she was like, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them trying to fuck each other over for a goddamn percentage. Yeah. And that's really what it is. And then in Alien 3 on the prison planet, the prisoners are expendable. Like, it is a constant that, like, the corporation is like, get me this xenomorph. I want it. And everything else can go by the wayside. So you are right. Like, in space, it is people who are working class people just living their lives, and they had to do this to pay the bills or make ends meet. And, they're not necessarily always the best people for the job. The other thing that makes this story different from the Nostromo story and this whole chapter of the Alien saga different is, and we said this before, I said it about some of the other parasites, but it is so hard to top the xenomorph.
Yeah.
And the facehugger as just some of the most iconic and scary creatures in the science fiction alien universe.
Yeah.
And in a very different way, when Predator came out, the Predator sort of had an iconicness to it that you're like, all right, he counts, keep him in there. Right. But those little fucking parasite ticks, and particularly that eyeball, have just in a few episodes risen up the ranks that I think that they will forevermore be a part of the alien universe. Like, we will see other directors, other writers use that fucking eyeball and expand on that story. Like, when that motherfucker in the engineer's head
Yeah.
just attacked that fucking xenomorph. And the xenomorph looked around like, what the fuck happened? Who are you? Like, that xenomorph was surprised. It was wild. Like, so watching the whole, to your point, the whole look, somebody made a mistake. Those eggs got out. The two guys got face hugged. We all know what's going down there. Like, we all know that this guy's going to have an alien burst out of his chest. But then having the ticks be so intelligent that they sneak out of their tube, and that the eyeball is like trying to warn her, but then is like, fuck it, I'm free. And having all of these parasites run around on the Maginot and seeing what happens. I think what's great with this being episode 5 is, in addition to just being an awesome standalone episode, this is foreshadowing what's about to happen on that fucking island. Like, every single one of these creatures that is highly intelligent and adaptive is on that island, and all hell is about to break loose. So we got to see a microcosm of it on the Maginot, but we're about to see it happen, I think, in 3 more episodes.
That's an excellent point, Mike, for sure, because you see that the scientist is making the notes that she's making in the lab, and she says, you know, I've been denying them food for 2 weeks. So clearly these creatures are intelligent creatures. They're going to find a way to get fed. They're going to find a way to survive, to eat. And then you're looking at, as you said, if you mirror that with those, the new hybrids that they have down there in Neverland, they're being starved of information, starved of connection with their family, they're going to find a way to break out as well. And so that is going, what's that going to lead to? What's that battle going to be about? That's going to be fascinating to see. But what you mentioned earlier, I think also the Morrow situation with Kid Cavalier, the fact that you have the scene with him and Yutani, which is a present day scene when the entire episode is a flashback. And she is saying, I'm glad you came to me. Any survivors know. And she's like saying, well, you know, we're going to negotiate. We're going to go to arbitration. He's like, no, man, I'm going to go take care of business. And he tells us his backstory, that he was a feral kid on the streets with a messed up arm, hence why his arm was turned into the thing that it can do. That to me shows me that this guy is a survivor no matter what. He was still able to find a wife, have a child, all of that. And we'll see what the backstory is more as that gets fleshed out. But clearly he's a guy who is, when he's focused on something, he's going to do everything in his power to handle the situation, and everyone is expendable until he handles it, like he showed us on the ship, you know?
And he's going to do everything in his power to get those creatures back to her. And her final words were, give him whatever he wants. And when you're head of Weyland Yutani, whatever you want is a pretty big blank check.
It's literally whatever you want. Yes. Exactly.
So yeah, it's, you know, I'm just so happy to have an alien story that, it's like I said last week, I'm happy to have an alien story that equally feels so much like the Alien franchise that I love. And at the same time feels so brand new and fresh and exciting that I don't quite know what's going to happen next.
And even with the eye thing, I think this is fascinating, because if you watch the episode, and maybe some of you caught it, maybe Michael, I'm sure you caught it, but like when those little tick things get out, it is the alien with the eyes that bangs on the glass to warn the scientist that there's danger imminent. And it's the thing on the glass that does not kill the acting captain, and instead uses Shmuel, that's the name of the guy, the engineer, the guy from Luther, if you see that series, to jump on top of the alien. So I like that they had the alien in essence not be CG, but be a human in the costume like it was in the original Alien. And then now this is the second episode in a row, I think, where you've seen the alien be somewhat mortal, for lack of a better term, because that, I think, clearly has some kind of issue with that xenomorph that maybe is passed between the species. What is that going to show us? And is that alien thing that we've been freaking out about, the eye thing, actually someone who's working in defense of humanity? I'm curious to see how that's going to play itself.
That thing crawls up into your head, wraps its tentacles around your brain, and then looks out of your eye hole. So I don't know that I would say that it's our friend, but I do think that you're right, which is the way that it like all of the alien species that were brought back are all parasites.
Yes, right.
That being said, you are right. It clearly tried to warn her.
Yes.
About those ticks. It chose its victim, and attacking a xenomorph rather like it's out like this, like a xenomorph is very elemental. It is gonna, like, xenomorphs aren't necessarily evil. They're scary as shit, but like Their job is to go out and find bodies and bring them back to the queen so that the queen can lay eggs and the face huggers can implant them and you make more aliens. Like it is a very perfect system that works. And it's just doing what it does. The eyeball definitely is a higher form of intelligence and makes its own decisions for reasons that we don't know. But the warning took me by surprise. And yeah, you're right. You know, taking over that body and then attacking the xenomorph rather than attacking the humans or making a run for it or going into an escape pod, like, is a choice. So I do think where this eyeball goes on Neverland is definitely a wild card.
Yeah.
And also just if we're keeping track of our Peter Pan illusions, which I am also a big fan of.
Yeah.
Morrow took control of the ship. So technically was the captain with the metal hand crashed the ship into Peter Pan's territory. I'm just saying, not bad.
Who's the crocodile in this scenario, though? Who is going to be?
Well, Boy Cavalier said to Wendy last week in their scene when he was like, when you fought the xenomorph, did it feel like the Indians or the pirates? And then he came to the right conclusion, which is no, the xenomorph is the crocodile.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see.
In Peter Pan, Captain Hook is afraid of the xenomorph.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry. Wow, that would be a movie. In Peter Pan, Captain Hook is afraid of the crocodile. Morrow is obsessed with retrieving the xenomorph, but they are both equally as hyper fixated on the crocodile in their individual stories.
Well, in this Peter Pan storyline, who is this creepy motherfucker? Who is Mr. Tang? Is he Smee? Is he a horrible version of Smee? Like, dude,
Tang is creepy as fuck. But actually, is he a synth? So I'm going to ask. I want in the comments. I want people to tell me.
Yeah,
because I've gotten in this argument twice in 24 hours.
Oh,
is Tang a synth?
I think
is he not? Is. Everybody leans towards him being a synth. Raheem even calls him a robot at one point.
Yes.
But also, Morrow heavily implies that Tang is jacking off over that girl sleeping in the tube. And synths don't have that fluid. They have other fluids. They don't do that.
An early version. It's possible because like he still has his human memories. He still has his.
Well, that's not a synth. A synth is totally synthetic.
Oh,
a hybrid.
Yeah.
So there literally half the internet is like, no, Tang's a synth. And half the internet is like, no, I don't think he is a synth. Like the xenomorph killed him the same way he killed. Like there's I kind of took it by the end of the episode. I was like, oh, I feel like this episode sort of implies that he is not a synth. But then I was like, felt stupid when people were saying he was. So what do you think in the comments? Let us know. Tang, synth, not synth. Either way, creepy as fuck.
Creepy as fuck. I'm going to throw one more thing out there about Tang. He's Asian. I don't know what his heritage is. Yutani is, I think, Japanese. I don't know if Mr. Tang is Japanese. Could this be like the Prince Andrew of the Yutani family? And they stuck him on this ship for 65 years because of his, kind of proclivities for the disgusting sexual stuff that he does. And so the fact, or he could be an early version of the hybrid, which retains a majority of the humanity while still being somewhat synth or whatever. And the fact that the alien kills him and goes after Morrow, by the way, it does sense enough humanity in both of them that it wants to kill them. So that makes me think that there's a little more backstory with Tang than we thought.
Three things.
Okay.
One, Boy Cavalier seems to have the market cornered on the whole hybrid thing. I don't know that anybody else is doing this, and it's his top secret thing he's doing on an island. So Tang being a hybrid, I think low likelihood. Your entire story about Tang being like the black sheep of the family who they threw on a ship, there is zero in the show that would even remotely imply that aside from his ethnicity. But boy, that's a great story. Like green light.
Japanese.
Green light that because I'm into it. But I think, and then just to clarify, Morrow is human. He just has a robotic arm. So Morrow is flesh and blood and everything. A synth, zero human, totally built and manufactured, digital brain, AI intelligence, talking out of a mouth, so like Ash and Bishop and Kirsch.
Right.
Hybrids, brand new, robot body, human brain downloaded into it. So those are the three things going on. So the xenomorph going for Morrow makes sense because Morrow is, aside from that arm, you could impregnate Morrow. Like that's really what it boils down to is a a face hugger could impregnate Morrow.
Yes.
A face hugger cannot impregnate a synth, and a face hugger cannot impregnate a hybrid.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
That is your robotics lesson for today. Thank you very much.
Well, then the fact that he killed Tang makes me think that Tang is a human or human enough that
would be that was my inclination as well.
Okay. I'm in that camp now after our conversation. All right. Anything more we want to say on this? I mean, I think we covered everything that happened.
No, man. Look, I continue to be like thrilled by this episode. Like this is a must. Like this is one of those. There's shows that we cover that I'll wake up on the day that they come out, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got to watch this sooner than later because we're going to talk about it. But you know, I'm not loving it, but I got to get through it and let's talk about it and see if I like it or not. And then there's the episodes where I wake up I wake up on Tuesday morning, and before I roll out of bed to get to the gym, I lay there and I'm like, oh shit, I got Alien tonight.
Yeah, I agree. This and Andor have been the two most recent series where I immediately, when the episode is done, I want to start it all over again and watch it. And especially this episode. I've already seen it twice. I'm probably going to watch it 2 more times before the next episode comes out because it's so effing good. All right, well, there you go. That's
man. I almost this weekend, like just put on episode 1 again.
Yeah, right.
Like I almost just was like, all right, I think once this is done with these 8 episodes, I for sure am going to have a day where I wake up, cancel all my plans, and just be like, fuck it. Order some takeout and like just like watch episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's my day.
Yeah, it's not a bad day. Some great quality going on here. Noah Hawley yet again knocking out of the park. All right, well there you go. That's our spoiler review for Alien Earth episode 5. Thanks so much for joining us for this and for joining us for the entire episode of the Geek Buddies here today with Michael and I holding down the fort as our buddy Shannon McClung is working. Buddy, we'll be back later on this week when we do our Peacemaker review. And if any other big geek news items pops up, we'll tack that onto our Peacemaker review as well later on this week. But thank you so much. Michael, what do we have to tell the wonderful people who are listening or watching to us?
Well, if you would like to follow us, you can do so on Twitter at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, you can do so at The Rocha Says. If you would like to follow me, you can do so at MKToon. And then we would also like it if you would smash that like button below, subscribe to John Rocha's John Rocha page, and check out all the amazing John Rocha content that he has. Leave your comments below. What do you think about Superman Man of Tomorrow, whether or not it is a sequel? What do you think about Matt Reeves' Batman 2 not having the Penguin in it? Who should be in it? Is it part of the DC universe? Is it not part of the DC universe? Channing Tatum's Cajun accent, is it good? Is it bad? Do we want it? Do we not? What do you think of Wicked for Good? What do you think of Catherine Bigelow saying that we're all going to die? What do you think about Marvel Zombies? And what do you think about Alien Earth? Let us know all of it below in the comments, especially your thoughts on Tang's synthness or humanness, or if he is a part of the Weyland-Yutani family. Let us know below. If you are listening to us on a podcast, go ahead and leave us some stars and comments so we pop up more in the rankings and more people can find us. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. All a mouthful, but all incredible and important information. All right, thank you all so much. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here of the
Geek
Buddies.